Jones County Junior College hosted a debate between Christopher Hitchens and Dinesh D'Souza on April 20th of this year. JC is located in Ellisville, Mississippi, right? It's a small but very well put together college in the Deep South. Having gone to a larger, well-funded, very high-profile institution here in the South, I can admit to being very impressed by their campus and amazed at their facilities, really. By all appearances, they're an exceptional little school. The faculty and staff I met on my trip were pleasant and gracious, but in looking over my footage and then comparing that to the official footage at the debate, I caught what I can only call a dramatic editing of the evening. And with little doubt, I expect this to be excused on things like time constraints on the video or what constitutes a question. I don't believe those are sufficient explanations, and they speak to either a laughable naivete about the issues underlying the debate or a more selfish trampling of reality for the idealization of their image. I do understand this requires some context. The playing fields for questions of God's existence have in the past tended towards the pure metaphysical speculation variety. Both parties shake hands and they admit to an inability to persuade each other of the soundness of their respective arguments, the validity of either being entirely off the table, right? A gentleman's sport. It's a fine conversation, and both parties go in knowing how little they'll actually accomplish, and they take care to couch their observations in a moderate and accommodating acquiescence to the idea that the world is just fine as it is, because they can have such a discussion in it. And if this was the idea behind hosting the debate, then this was incredibly naive. That world, the specialized world of theology, debate, and post-discussion tea parties, is one of many reasons why the new wave of atheism has struck a chord with theists and atheists both, and certainly the younger generation. This is not a game, not merely one. This is an ideological struggle that has never had the benefit of the information age in previous generations. The questions might be as old as time itself, but the medium is certainly not, and the listeners and advocates are unlike those even as recent as a generation ago. In the state of Mississippi, as a tiny example, there is still a law in the books that denies public office to atheists. 50 years ago, the 14% of the population that likely identified or leaned that way, but weren't polled that way, were spread out. They had little way to advocate themselves. The harbingers of the status quo had little reason to give voice or attention to them because being socially ostracized was easy and effortless, very common. Faith could be a protected form of speech and thought, and uniquely so, because the most effort it had to put out was allowing the occasional philosophical dissent in a small pocket of their world. Though too often people had to be genuinely shunned and disconnected, often threatened, sometimes accused, slandered, sometimes assaulted, to maintain that power. The religious moderates, in their quest to appear gracious, gave, and still do give, permission for the more extreme to dramatically edit society, and often history, to suit their position. And then the internet came, and like-minded people could form communities where communities would have been impossible. A simple unbeliever, pressured to hide their clarity, could turn to a place where reality was expressed, and he or she could know that they weren't alone, they weren't odd, they weren't worth less, there wasn't anything wrong with them for their unwillingness to lie to themselves about something as personal as what they think. This is not a debate for the sake of intellectual curiosity, and those that think it is show their hand as contributors to a culture that believes that all the unbelieving community wants is the occasional invitation to play the rhetoric game, and then off they should go back home. This seemingly mild habit is the reason why people like Hitchens and Harris and Dawkins and Dennett and Stanger and so many others have the momentum they do. Not because the lukewarm and content gentry are again interested in age-old questions all of a sudden, but because there's a surge of need from the atheistic community, spread thin and marginalized except when convenient in the past, to be taken seriously and taken honestly. And the method they have most advocated, in contrast to the revisionism and expanding tautologies of the faithful, has been freedom of speech. Letting the playing field show itself for what it is, not for what we would idolize it to be. The very difference between a theist and an atheist. For every Pat Robertson or Jerry Falwell that is politely removed from the occasional intellectual discourse, permission is given to dozens more like them. And every outspoken, Bible-thumping Christian that is excused as not representing us, we marginalize the atheist community by making their case look less accurate. It's a crime against free speech, something atheists and the Brights communities believe in deeply in this information age. And it's another sandbag against the damned still fighting to hold off the secularization of America yet longer. It's dishonest, and it's unfair, and it has more in common with propaganda than journalism. This is Jones County Junior College's own footage of the debate, and specifically the question and answer section. If you look closely, you'll notice the actual cut where somebody is actually taken out, edited out.
Extremely complex design at the beginning.
Yes. Well, that was real.
You want to see it again?
Yes. Well, that was real.
And here's the footage I caught, not 5 feet away, of the exact same time.
But I will declare now the one true living God, and His name is Jesus Christ.
Do you have a question?
And I am a living witness because He forgave me, and now I have the Spirit inside me. So,
Okay, let's ask a question, not make a commentary. Yes, sir.
God loves you.
Yes.
God bless you.
Well, that was real.
Also taken out of the official footage is this guy.
Thank you, gentlemen, for coming this evening. I'd like to speak to your analogy about going in and subduing the male and grabbing the woman and raping her and making this a moral question. I can think of one place where this is actually a God mandated thing. If you happen to be a Hebrew invading Canaan, slaughtering Canaanites.
And before we think that they simply cut out everybody who didn't ask an actual question, you'll notice this part, which is right there at the end of the question-answer session, where this young lady actually makes a statement as well.
That a Christian can do, that a non-Christian atheist cannot do, is to lead someone to Christ or to an eternal heaven, to salvation, to something beautiful, whereas an atheist or someone who's a non-believer can lead someone to hell and condemn them.
Okay.
That's all.
I maintain that this gentleman exists, not just in his own boots, but in a concentration high enough that his decision to approach the discussion about genuine skepticism and knowledgeable atheism was to give the theological equivalent of "you're wrong because I said so." To hide this is disingenuous, and it proves a point that the atheist community has been trying to make for a long time, that there are more of him, variously educated, variously positioned, socially predominant and dominant, and that they make decisions about people's lives, jobs, opportunities, morality, acceptability, about their rights and about their freedoms, than there are people like D'Souza. The cultured and careful, informed and vibrant proponent of religion is often not the problem. This is. When the world looks at JC's footage, they will see a tempered society, even-handed and accepting. They will see a question of this and an answer of that. They will see a Mississippi that is false, a papier-mâché magnolia tree that has the appearance of excellent form and structure and aesthetics, and that impression will make the world less interested in those raising their hand and saying, "I am told I am less moral," by those that claim to know morality by revelation I have not had, or "I am ostracized by classmates for not believing in a hell," or "they're trying to take away science and give us dogma." Because the response can and will be, "But look at this fine display of Mississippians." Not one came to the table with these stereotypically antiquated cliches. We are all such good intellectuals here. And the dismissal will be ringing loudly in the atheist community, but it won't be heard not a bit elsewhere. Because who can believe we're so comically anachronistic as the atheists say, when the evidence is right there on tape that we're not? Whether naively or maliciously, Jones County Junior College editing this guy out of the depiction of Mississippi makes the case that the difference between the atheist community and the theistic community is this. That's a far cry from the reality being the difference between the atheist community and the religious community is this.